Hello and welcome back to the One Shot Show, where GMs go to level up and where players meet their sweet, sweet end. Today,
Rest in peace.
we're talking about the joys of character death.
I love character death.
Alternative title: New Year, new character. Me too. I love a character death. I love inflicting them. I love the threat of them more than anything else. It has to be made real. It has to always be a possibility in my games. That's how I like to do things. But as I say, it's about the joys of character death. So it's not about how I feel. It's about how the players feel and how to come to enjoy character death as a player and why your players might enjoy character death already. It's an exciting topic because, like I say, I run a very deadly game. But where do you sit on this?
I remember, for me, one of the first experiences that I had as a player, I was playing... It was a game from Tales from the Yawning Portal, a series of adventures from the 80s, republished into 5th edition. One of the first characters I'd made, he was a first-level fighter. His name was Humphrey Habsburg Orpington, Esquire. He was killed by a youngling white dragon within, I'm going to say, an hour and a half of the first episode of play, which was amazing. He was such a... and I didn't know it was going to happen, and I wasn't expecting it to happen. He was a bit of an oaf. He was a bit of a clumsy dum-dum character. But it was just so wonderfully funny and liberating, and I kind of feel like I was lucky because I broke the seal on character death really, really early. But I remember the moment of it happening being dramatic and shocking. I was down to death saves for it. And it really made me, I don't know, I was kind of like, this is what this game truly is.
Yeah.
The thing that separates it from the video game, that separates it from the movie or the novel, is the fact that it can come down to one or two rolls, and then your character is the dust. I think that's a beautiful thing about tabletop role-playing.
Yeah, and one of the things I always find satisfying about it, and it's very antithetical to everything else that we actually talk about in terms of like storytelling structures and literary structures, because you're right, this is the massive point of deviation, is... We sort of talked about this a bit when we did TPKs. The story just ends. Like, your character's story just ends. That's it. There's nothing else. There's no further payoff. There's no come back in as their long lost brother. Like, you can do that if you want, but like all the story simply ends. And that's not something that we do in most other mediums. And it's like more realistic. We often don't think of it as such. It's more realistic. And the reason we don't do it in other mediums is because realism sucks. You ever watch Boyhood? That movie's awful.
I've never gone near it because I've heard it's tedious.
Yeah. It's just like real life. But I already have one of those. I paid money to go to the movies to escape, not watch some kid grow up. That sucks.
Yeah, and it's one of the first questions that I always remember when I'm really introducing somebody, they've just really gotten into it, is there's like a clicking point or an asking point about like, what happens when when I hit those 3 death saves, or like when someone at the table explains like, oh, there's the possibility that with enough massive damage we could be down right now. And there's the realization point, and then you get the drama of fighting for your life. And really, I feel like a table that can sometimes be a little lackadaisical, you begin to actually like approach the idea of like, this could be the encounter for your character. Everyone's game lifts, their role-playing lifts. I feel like the tantalizing option of death being there is what gets everyone like into game mode for my tables, at least.
Yeah, I always make this point to my players as well. If I want you dead, you're dead. Like, I am God in this world. I can say you have an aneurysm and drop that on the spot, and you don't even get to make a roll, right? If I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. Which means that if you feel very targeted in an encounter, it's not because I want you dead. That being said, I may in fact be trying to kill you. Those are two separate concepts. And that the key difference there is exactly what you're expressing. It keeps it real. It keeps it serious. You know, maybe for the first time in a while, they're fighting some intelligent enemies that know to target the wizard. And suddenly the wizard is absolute featherweight. They're melted. They're on death saves. They're isolated. There's an anti-magic field preventing the healing from going through. And suddenly it is so very, very real. Now, that character might not die. In fact, oftentimes in my games where I have things like that happen where, within the immersive context of the encounter, someone in particular is being singled out and more heavily targeted. they might not die. Often, that is where the players will then really start to dig deep into what their options are, what abilities they might have that they've been neglecting, alternative ways they can use things. Oh, I got a little bit of medicine. I could just roll the dice on making a check to try help that death save, and so on and so on. And it's absolutely thrilling. And then sometimes the character does in fact die. So I think there's a variety of reasons why a player may enjoy it. I'm keen to dive into a few of them, and I'm keen to start with one of mine because I've mentioned before, I play with people who, on the Theatre Kid to Grognard spectrum, definitely lean more Grognard. We role play, but we lean Grognard. There's nothing wrong with that. And that means often they've got a backup character theory crafted. Might just be some mechanical interactions that they're interested in. It might be a bit of a character concept that they like the idea of. Might just be a better foil to the party than what they're currently playing. And that means that oftentimes my players are already at a point of, I like my current character. I like, Blog the Wizard. But I'm quite excited about my backup character, Roland the Good, the Paladin. And if something happens to Blog, I'm happy to roll out Roland. And that changes their attitude and how they play. It doesn't mean they give up. It doesn't mean they don't care. They still try to live. But it means there's always that little bit of that almost perverse excitement when you're on death's door of being maybe okay if you lose that character because you get more excited about this other. It's almost like breaking up with somebody to date this other person. You feel like such a terrible person for doing it, but you're also so excited to start this new thing and explore this new feeling. And I know that's a very complicated thing to feel.
Because when you're crafting for an adventure, let's say it's for a gothic horror adventure, I'll kick around 3 or 4 minimum character concepts, and I'll theory craft them out, and I'll build them up and take them down. And I exactly as your players do, I'm often sitting there going so if Malkin goes down, I know that I have this sort of farmer who is was once a paladin character who could come in, and all of those things are sitting at the back of my head. I think also as a GM and a storyteller, I'm kind of should Malkin bite the dust? I still have ways, I think, to find a way into this story with these other characters, and they're all cool builds that I love. They're classes I haven't tried, or fun little spell and weapon combinations that I haven't put together before, or simply just an aesthetic of combat or an accent that I just want to try on, because we don't get to try on that often. A campaign can last for a long time. Your character may make it all the way through, in which case you're delving into all of the shades and notes of that character, but I like a lot of variety.
I've got one in my campaign currently. This is maybe the most interesting thing I think I've ever done with character death. They encountered a Norn NPC, a weaver of fate, a reader of futures.
Yes.
And she spake prophecy of all of them at this particular moment in time, which included some fascinating moments. They were in this particular location to find a relic that was capable of slaying exceptionally powerful beings. One of these prophecies that she laid out was upon the Magus character saying, "You're going to kill me." Now they find this artifact that is a sword, and they're like, well, is this the thing that can slay powerful beings? And then they're like, we know a powerful being right here on this island. And suddenly it all clicks into place. They're like, oh my gosh, that's the prophecy. That's why she said that. For one of the other characters, he is playing a sort of scholarly wizard that's going against the grain of conventional wisdom, and he is he's being proven right as the campaign goes along. However, the prophecy was, you will not achieve anything of note before you die. Now, we are playing a fantasy game with resurrection magic, but that kicks in at a fairly high level. So right now, as far as he's concerned, he is in a race against the clock to outfox this prophecy by making sure that he lives long enough until someone in the party has resurrection magic. Then he can die. Then he can let it go and just be brought back and accomplish something of note. Hey, problem solved. But his character might simply die.
Yeah.
And he knows that. He's totally retooled all of his spells. He is like the most survivable wizard in the universe. It's been absolutely fascinating. And my player knows that he and I are now playing this almost weird meta chess game.
Yes.
And also he knows that in light of the fact that if I want him dead, he's dead. I could say you have an aneurysm right now.
Yeah. And then your character can pop off after that point.
Yet I am still the one who wrote this prophecy into this story, and I may yet simply try very hard to kill him. And he may be in that encounter going, oh my god, this is it.
Here it comes.
This is the one.
That's beautiful.
Thrilling.
Yeah, I've got a similar, like, in terms of a way that I, as GM, was like, I've written a way that death is now a fun game to play for the player, which is, it's what I did, actually. It happened only 4 or 5 nights ago. Characters, Cursed City, Abandoned City. They're exploring it, they're unraveling the mystery of it. City is full of undead. And for the first time, we had a full TPK. But that it was TPK in the City of Undeath. And so then we come back after the break, and they're confused but excited because they can tell that something is going to happen. And then I have a range of feats written on cards, which they are able to draw from as they are now bound to the city in Undeath. And so little by little, they will take on boons and benefits as they die and come back and die and come back. They will lose parts of their character sheet, but they will gain new things as they go along. And we've all clocked onto that now. So they, as a result of that game, they were kind of like, we can go back to this place now, and we can really try and face down this. It was like a Froghemoth type creature that they went, we cannot do this now. But now they know there is a game that is involved there. And now some of them are like vulnerable to radiant damage or resistant to cold damage. And some of them are stronger than they were before, like in that image of like the zombie who is now able to like utilize the full body.
Yeah.
But after a certain number of deaths, I told, like, it was kind of like, there's only so far this road you can travel down before something will happen.
Before you lose yourself
Absolutely.
Entirely.
Yeah. So that's the game that we're locked into now, and, like, as a joy of death mechanic, I really hope that it encourages them to really swing for the fences and, like, even, go big or go home and just see what happens as we go along.
Yeah, there's something a little bit out of Wilds to that. I would say where if you played the game, look, minimal spoilers, it's a brilliant game. It's what my tattoo is of in fact.
Wow.
You're in a loop. You come back every time you die, and you reach a point in the game where if you make a small mistake that's going to impede your ability to explore during that cycle, you start just like throwing yourself off cliffs, or like taking off your spacesuit in the vacuum of space to like intentionally reset yourself. You start to love death. It becomes this like tool in your arsenal of learning, and like you actually get to progress things quicker as a result of embracing your inevitable mortal demise. And that is all happening in the context of the fact that every 22 minutes the universe ends anyway.
Cool.
So you're gonna die before too long. You're already against the clock in terms of how much you get done before the sun blows up. And then you kind of find natural control over that phenomenon yourself, rather than just like hanging around in space for 10 minutes waiting for the sun to explode. Yeah. It's a really fun pace of play. It's something that's that very few game experiences, I think, particularly capture well. Yeah. Usually if you take an intentional death in like a roguelike, it's out of a sense of frustration. Oh, this hasn't worked out. I'm not powerful enough at this threshold. I'm just going to stand still and let the enemies hit me. And that's actually not fun. That's frustrating. But because of the narrative conceits of tabletop role-playing games, we have the opportunity to bake in, as you've done, that things that make death a tool in your arsenal almost. I'm reminded as well somewhat of still, shall we say, relatively fresh in the memory, the prologue for the most recent Critical Role season that involved a character death to be intentionally brought back because he'd gone to his GM and gone, I think this would be a really cool character concept, by the way.
Yeah, this is the other
I'll
one.
leave it to you to bake it in.
And the character death that is like co-conspirated with your GM.
Yes.
Like the character death that is there for like a particular flavor of your character, be it undeath, be it that like you, the GM and a player collaborate to go like, going to introduce this character, deliberately killed off, you have a new character already in there, but it's to illustrate an important danger of the world, an important theme of the world. That's a really fun way to bite the bullet.
I'm in the process of having this exact plan. I'm in a Fallout game right now, and I have a Mr. Handy character that's like, a farm bot that was owned by Sovsit prepper type. So he's been trapped in this underground bunker and has internalized all this libertarian propaganda. Like, don't tread on me, taxation is theft. But the GM's like, look, we're at a point in the campaign where robots aren't going to be a possibility. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll build something else in the meantime that can fit for what we've got. And I know that at some point there's going to be a switchover. And honestly, the funniest way for that to happen, because it's Fallout, it would be for my new character to kill my old character. I don't know if the GM's going to do that. We'll find out when the time comes. We're still not where robots are in the setting just yet, so who knows?
And you're in a story, like, Fallout is such a rich setting to go, like, death is a drop of a hat setting.
Yeah.
So, like,
Life
it's going to be
cheap.
there, you pop around, and then you jump into the next.
We haven't even scratched the surface of actually other systems where, like there are certain Warhammer or Cthulhu-based systems where, like, you show up with, like, 10 characters knowing that you're going to churn through a bunch of them, and that's the joy of it. Even how death used to work in old school systems, and that, like, getting to higher levels, being able to even play a bard was, like, this massive accomplishment that you'd pull off, like, once every 4 years. We haven't even had a chance to go into that, and we're already out of time. The loop is up. We're simply going to have to end it here. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one. If you're enjoying listening to The One Shot Show, why not support us on Patreon? Go to patreon.com/OneShotShow, where you'll be able to find video versions of our episodes, long-form bonus episodes that we release every single month, access to our community Discord server. You can pose questions for our special Q&A episodes, and if you're back at the higher tiers, you can even vote on what questions we cover in our show. Check it out.